Hey everybody, I'm Ted from Tebex. In this tutorial, we are looking at the AuctionHouse plugin for Minecraft. The AuctionHouse allows players to list items for sale on a AuctionHouse, and people can access this by using the /AH command. Since there are quite a few things you can do and configure, I will not go through every little setting and show you what you can do and how it changes the plugin. I will point you towards some of the more interesting settings and things you can do. And of course, I'll show you a basic run through of how this works and also how you can get it working in combination with Tebex. These are all the commands that we can use and also the corresponding permissions. Since there are permissions involved and an economy, we need a few more plugins than just the AuctionHouse. So I currently have installed the AuctionHouse. We are using Essentials X for the economy feature. We are using LockPerms to manage our permissions. And we're using Vault, which is being used by both Essentials X and LockPerms to make sure that it can detect all the groups and make sure that everything is working correctly. You can see I have those 4 plugins installed on the right, and I have my paper server running. Here you can see I am connected on 2 accounts. The left here is my admin account or operator account, and here on the right is just a normal player account. And throughout the video, this will stay the same. Left is operator, right is player. If we look at the permissions, there are some permissions that are on by default. By doing /AH and then a space, you can see that there are already several options that we can do straight out of the box. On the right, on my player account, if I do /AH for AuctionHouse and then a space, you can see that there are already by default several things that I can do, including just doing /AH and opening up the AuctionHouse. There is no need to give any permissions to the player groups or to the players. It just works straight out of the box. It is also quite helpful. So if you, for example, go here, it says, what is this page? And it just explains what this page is and also how you can sell an item. And it even tells you the correct syntax to use. So let's try to do this. Let's hold up our bet and let's do /AH sell. And then it tells me the price. Let's just do $10. And we want to sell 1 bet and press enter. And it tells us we have listed 1 white bet for $10 on the AuctionHouse. If I now check on my other account and do /AH, I can see white bet, price, $10, seller, Ted Pommes. When it expires, and this is something you can configure in the configuration file, we will dive into the configuration file in a minute. Since I'm operator, I have the options to cancel the item or also expire the item. Normal players do not have this option. If I open up the AuctionHouse on the right as a normal player, you can see those options don't exist. If I try to buy my own, it tells me in the chat, you cannot purchase your own items. If I try something that I don't have the money for, it will also tell me that I cannot afford this item. So I'm just sending 1,000 to myself by doing /pay Ted Pommes 1,000. So now I do have enough money to buy that block of diamond. So if I now try to buy it, purchase item, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. And now I have the block. It took 500 from my balance and my new balance is 500 since I had 1,000. And as you saw in that pop-up before, I can also cancel it if I click on an item that I didn't actually want to buy. Here we can change the sorting, oldest first, newest first, highest price, lowest price. We can look at our current listings, which is the bed. We can see if we recently sold any items, which we haven't. Let's go back. If we have any expired listings, which we don't. It says here we go to our own listing. It says click here to cancel to return to you. So if I click on it, you have canceled your auction of 1 white bed. And it automatically gives us the item back. And there are certain behaviors that you can set in the config. What happens if someone cancels a listing? If I open up the AuctionHouse, we go to current listings and then go to recently sold, we can see that it says that we recently sold the diamond block or block of diamond. It says also in our chat that Pommes has purchased our block of diamond and that we have earned $500. If I, for example, try to do /AH sell and do a price and say 1 while having a block of bedrock and press enter, it says that item is not allowed to be put in the AuctionHouse. Bedrock is something that is in the block list inside of our config. So let's go into the configuration file and see what kind of options we have and also how we can configure the plugin. So inside of our plugins folder, let's go to AuctionHouse and then let's open up the config.yml. So here we have some default durations that you can change. For example, as we saw earlier, the expiration duration is normally 14 days. You can change that here. There are a few things you can prevent. For example, failed containers like shulker boxes. And also in what kind of mode people are selling stuff. If someone has access to creative, they cannot just completely fill up the AuctionHouse. Of course, they can still switch back and forth, but probably people should not have access to creative on most servers anyway. some minimum and maximum sell prices, and also some tax options. The plugin is also usable in combination with Discord. This is not something I will show in this video, but here you can specify what Discord channel you want to use. Looking on the Auction House page, you can see it's compatible with Discord SRV. There's some information of how to configure this. We have some behavior options. For example, when you cancel a listing, you can make it so that all the items drop at the player's feet. In this case, it will automatically give it back to the player in their inventory. There are some announcement options. So if you want to have listings and purchases shown in the public chat, in the action bar, or also on Discord. Some restricted items, you can add multiple as you can see here. And one of those that I demonstrated was the block of bedrock. There are some sounds in-game that we can change if you know the exact name of the sound that are inside of Minecraft. And also we can change some of the buttons, so you can change the styling so it's not the same as everybody else's auction house. If people are used to having an auction house on other servers, there's a big chance it will just look default, so people know what buttons do what. If you want to give this your own kind of branding or your own kind of styling, you can change the buttons over here. So for example, you could have a sign with auction house on it, or a block name with the name of auction house, or an entity with the name auction house. And people could interact with that, and it will automatically open up the auction house graphical user interface. We have some logging settings, so it will log everything that has happened. For example, if you expect any unfair play, you can go into the logs and see who has been selling what, who has been buying it, and that way hopefully figure out exactly what has happened. And also some empty spam checks, and this is true by default. These are not all the settings that we have. We can also go into the en_US JSON, and this has all the strings or text. So if you want to brand this as well or change some of the sentences that pop up. We also have some logs. So let's look at one of the logs. And here in this log, for example, you can see exactly what time something happened, what step happened, and also who done it. We listed our white bet in the video. I sold a diamond block. I also canceled my auction, and I got my white bet returned to my Tebex account. So you can really see what happened at what time. A lot of the permissions are already set by default, so players can do the most basic things. Some of the triggers that I just talked about require permissions. And also with permissions, you can set how many maximum listings players can make. Things like reload enables you to reload the plugin. Doesn't really make sense to give this to all the players. You can also list items as a server and also do some unlimited buying. Also, this doesn't really make sense to give to most players. Yes, for moderators and admins maybe, but not just anybody should be able to make those listings. So let's quickly look at the permissions, and let's look at one way how we can get this working with Tebex. So one thing that we could do is, for example, go up and where it says default maximum listings, we can set this to 0. Now, if we save this and on our admin account, reload to reload the plugin. If we now try to make a listing, for example, for this sign, and we do AH sell 1, it says you're not permitted to sell items. What we can do is use a permission to give ourselves permission, for example, to make 3 listings in total. So on our admin account, I'm going to say LP editor to open up the log perms editor and click on the link. Then inside of log perms, I'm going to go to users. In this case, go to Tebex, which is my non-operator account. If we look at the auction house here for permissions, it says auctionhouse.auctions. And then set a number of maximum listings. So I'm just going to copy this inside of log perms, going to paste, and then, for example, say 3. Press enter. Add it to our list, and then also apply it to our server. Now let's try again. We have listed one sign. We have listed a second sign. Let's try to do the bet. We've listed the bet, and now we should not be able to list the block. It says you cannot list more than 3 items at a time because we set the maximum permission for our player to 3. For example, create a group, a VIP group, or a Discord linked group. It doesn't have to be something that has to be sold. It can also be something that is claimed through the store for free. Then we can use Tebex to automatically add a player to that VIP group or traders group once a package has been claimed. So going back to the editor, we're going to go to groups. We can create a new group, give it a name, and also a display name. In my case, I already have a VIP group. We can do the same thing, paste it in here, the permission that we want to add. For example, 5. 55 is a little bit too much. 5, add it to our group. Oh, I didn't press enter. So 5. press enter to add it to this list, press add to actually add it to our permissions, and then also apply it to the server. And now everybody that is inside of the VIP group can make 5 listings on the auction house. If I go to users and then to Ted Pommes, you can see that my groups are default. Now I've showed this a few times before, but the command that we use to add a player to a specific group is /lp for luck perms, user, then the username, so in this case Ted Pommes, parent, set, and then choose the group that we want. So in our case, VIP, and that's it. We can set in what kind of mode and what game mode. We're not going to specify that, so just set VIP. If we then press enter, it then says that we have our existing groups cleared and are now only inherent VIP. If you want to add people to multiple groups, you can also use add instead of set. So instead of set, we use add. And now, for example, if I add default, it says now inherits the permissions from default. It doesn't say our current groups are cleared. And if we open up luck perms, let's open up a new session, close the old one. If we go to users, to Ted Pommes, you can see we are now both in the default group and inside of the VIP group. So once again, you can then use Tebex to run this command as soon as a package has been bought or has been claimed. This way, you can make sure that not everybody can just make listings or give certain groups or certain players more listings depending on what kind of permissions or groups they have. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of an overview what you can do with the auction house, where you can go to change the strings and the branding a little bit, and also shows you a little bit of how it works and what it can do. Even though I didn't go through all the settings and showed everything what you can do, I hope this gives you a nice basic understanding to then dive into the plugin yourself and configure it exactly what suits your server. Hopefully this was still helpful. If anything is unclear, feel free to leave a comment down below. And as always, thank you for watching and good luck with your Tebex store.